So let's move on to talking about the structure and terms of financings. This is, I'm not going to get into venture financing 101 here. I'm not going to go through every single investor right that might show up in a term sheet. I'm relying on whoever's listening to this, hoping that you've done that research, that you know what we're talking about. We put out some education that you can look up, that we'll share with We Transact. And you can do your research to understand standard venture capital investor rights and terms. We want to talk a more high level here and strategically about the structure and terms of your financings, how to think about them. Not what necessarily they are, but just how to approach them.
Cool.
So with a traditional financing, you're raising from a standard venture fund. What you're trying to do is maximize valuation for the amount of money you can get and reduce dilution, right? That's the key here. Get capital with as little dilution as possible. And that's the goal, whether it's traditional or agile. You raise money with the goal of taking as little dilution as possible.
Yeah.
But with traditional, what that usually looks like is, like I mentioned before in prior slides, you have one VC who typically takes up the entire round, who dictates terms and sets the valuation, and then you can fill out a round with a few other investors, strategic partners, etc. But again, most of the round is one big traditional fund. Mm-hmm. That typically looks like a preferred stock financing. Even in earlier rounds, like a seed plus round, you're looking at selling preferred stock. And when you're selling preferred stock, that typically entails a lot of investor rights, a lot of drafting, a decent amount of negotiation, and a lot of due diligence. So these rounds tend to take longer to get closed. There's a lot more paperwork involved in them. And it's kind of like you do it once and then you can't keep doing that. You can't use that round for any future raises. You have to go and do it again for the next raise. You have to paper up a whole new set of documents for the next raise. Yeah. So it's, you go, and again, there's this concept of the initial closing where the lead investor comes in and they allow you some time frame where you can do additional closings, finish out and fill out the round. And that usually is 30, 45 days. Mm-hmm. At most, it's 90 days. And so your investment window from when you have your initial close is at most 90 days and often shorter than that. Again, it's this traditional model of you raise once and then you don't go back to raising for at least a year or two years down the road. Mm-hmm. The agile approach to this is, you know what, we are not trying to get one giant investor in the door. We are trying to spread out the investment over as many investors as possible. Again, for that lead gen, the benefits of having the lead gen from more investors, we're trying to get as many investors in the door as possible, which requires that you have a more flexible fundraising approach. And that flexible fundraising approach is, for agile fundraising, is taking advantage of what we call convertible investments. Mm-hmm. So SAFE and convertible notes are what are the standard convertible investment strategy. Mm-hmm. If an investor does not want to use a convertible like a SAFE, mm-hmm. then there are more simplified preferred stock rounds that you can use pre-Series A. There's a set of documents called the Series Seed preferred stock documents, and they're a lot more simplified than most venture-backed venture financing documents. It allows you to get the financing done a little bit quicker with less documentation. And then what we encourage is, instead of having an initial closing with up to 90-day additional closing window, extend that out over a year, maybe 6 months to a year, where you have a window of time where you can go and find more investors to bring on in this finance on these terms. Yeah. So you leave the terms open for an extended period of time. And again, the whole point here is when you go talk to investors, you always have a round open so that if you find an investor who loves what you're doing, you have a round that they can come get on board on. You have an open financing ground. So that, that is the idea. The difference between Agile and traditional is, we're not doing everything in one big chunk with all these investor rights. We're trying to do it in a more open-ended financing raise where the terms, you actually dictate the terms, you set the terms at what's reasonable, and you go and raise based on that. And when you hit a valuation, an inflection point that increases your valuation,
yes,
you are able to set up a new financing on those new terms on that stepped up valuation. Very simply, you set up a new SAFE or a new convertible note, and because those documents are so simple, it's easy to change from one set of terms to the next.
So this is a really interesting difference in terms of when you have a traditional structure, you have paperwork. And when we say papers too, there's a cost with papers. So, you really want to make sure it's worth that cost. It's really the right strategy for you because you're not going to be, each round you're going to need to do two. Where Agile, the paperwork is a lot lighter, it sounds like. It's a lot more flexible. So you want to think about that in terms of, okay, are we going to be hitting milestones? Or do we want to give away this much of the company at this current valuation? Can we raise our valuation quickly? So think about, that valuation. That brings up the question of valuation. Like with a traditional round, how should I be thinking or getting to that correct valuation if I'm going that route versus Agile? How should I be thinking about valuation?
Yeah, and this is a really interesting song and dance that founders go through with investors in a traditional round, because you're raising money right now based on what you've done to date. But at the same time, you're not going to be raising for 2 years. And so you want to bake into that valuation the growth you're going to experience between now and the next fundraising. So you don't want to just get a valuation based on today, because you're going to be using that money to grow a lot. And by the time that money's used up and you're hitting the next, even maybe at that point you're ready to sell the company, your valuation has increased immensely. And so you're selling a lot of founder dilution in a traditional raise where you have to do a valuation based on current revenue, current growth, when things are going to get better down the road. So it's a little tricky to do that, but that's what investors are going to do. They're going to say, okay, let's look at current revenue, let's look at growth, and you're going to say, let's look at where I can be in 2 years. And so you're going to say, hey, let's get my valuation up to whatever it's going to be in by the next time I need to raise again. They're going to try and say, no, we're basing the valuation on what it is today. You got to meet somewhere in the middle. And it's a little bit tricky of a conversation, and it is a very strong negotiation point. And it's honestly the biggest negotiation that you'll need to make in terms of the term sheet, because that dictates your dilution.
Right.
It's a very interesting kind of thought process you have to go through. With Agile, it's a lot simpler, because what your plan is, you're not raising a big chunk of money to get you way down the road. You're raising money to get to the next inflection point, which again is the next increase in valuation that your company is going to experience. So you can actually raise on current valuation, which is an easier conversation to have with investors. You're raising less money. So let's say your company right now is worth $10 million. Under a traditional round, if you want to go and raise $2 or $3 million to get you to the 2 years down the road, you're giving up 20, 25, 30% of your company.
Yeah.
And you raise $2 or $3 million for 20, 30% of your company, and you don't get to renegotiate that as the company increases in value. An Agile approach, let's say that it's going to take you $500,000 to get to your next inflection point, which is a big product release that it's going to happen in 6 months. You only need $500,000 to get there. You do a $500,000 raise at the $10 million valuation. You take a 5% dilution hit. In 6 months, you've hit an inflection point, and your company's value has grown up to 15 million, maybe even bumped up to 20 million. At that point, maybe you do need 1 or 2 million at that point. Well, $2 million at a $20 million valuation is only 10% of your company compared to 20% in the traditional round where you've raised that all in one chunk. So the Agile approach, you raise less money, but you use that money, and the next time you go raise money, your valuations increase. So you're taking less dilution over time.
Yeah.
So you're what we stack these convertibles. And so you have a safe at the $10 million valuation. Then you get, your valuation increases, and in 6 months you go and open up a new round at 15 million, and you're stacking these safes. Now, eventually, here's what you need to realize when you're doing the Agile approach. Eventually, you will need to raise a traditional round. Mm-hmm. You can't raise on safes and convertible notes perpetually. Investors they need those safes to convert into preferred stock at some point. Yeah. And so typically we see Series A is the point where most VCs are unwilling to invest through convertibles. But pre-seed, seed plus rounds, everything up until Series A, you should be taking this Agile approach where you're stacking convertibles. Mm-hmm. And then at Series A, you go and do a more traditional round. Mm-hmm. And those convertibles will convert into preferred stock at that point. And the total dilution you'll have taken will be lower because you've raised as your valuation increases instead of raising all at one chunk at a lower valuation. So
that's such a huge thing to know that can stack. Because it's the flexibility. It's really assessing, is this right for your raise or your next raise? And it could change. So if something fell through, think about, okay, does that mean we should be raising right now? I mean, all of the traditional should we be raising questions. There's lots of videos you can, or talk with other founders about, that if you just want some peer feedback. But I think this really sets us up nicely to think strategically about, okay, with the structure and terms, what makes the most sense? Each one, I will just want to always bring back the element of time. Time is something that is a founder's greatest asset, and often something that goes unaccounted for, or it's the first thing they'll give up because they think, oh, it's just sweat equity. No, like time is of the essence. Time equals money, time equals resources, time equals opportunity costs. So as you're looking at traditional, make sure that type of round is worth your time for those structure and terms, or if Agile might be worth your time, because there is a difference in terms of both of them. So I just want to bring everybody back to that time equation, which often gets overlooked. This is just us comparing these two, but you still want to bring in your consideration as you're strategically thinking about this through the workshop is look at all your available resources, assets. Would your time be better spent other places? I know some founders get to the point that they think Agile's the right way, but actually maybe at that time on business development or leveraging that network that they've built up with their last Agile safe note might be better for, increasing revenues for 6 months, raising that valuation. So just know time is a big asset that you don't want to overlook. So keep this in mind. Hopefully, we're here as founders to help each other out and really make sure we leverage all the resources we have.
Savvi, we partner with Retransact to give you guys a number of tools and services to make your lives as founders easier and better throughout your venture's life cycle, from formation to fundraising, even to exit. And so we offer a number of tools on a SaaS platform that you get to take advantage of in a DIY. You get to access it and use it as much as you want or need. I'll show you what some of those tools are, or I'll talk about them. And then we also offer services in conjunction with those tools that you can take advantage of as well. And I'll explain some of what those are shortly. So we have a number of different products. We have Savvi Go, Savvi Raise, and Savvi Exit. These are packages of tools that you access on a SaaS platform that you can use depending on the stage of your company. So if you are just starting out, at a pre-seed level, we have a number of services that you can take advantage of depending on what you're needing. We have subscriptions that you can use. And these services are, your entity formation, getting your org documents set up, getting your entity filed with different states, getting bank accounts set up, getting your founder documents set up, your cap table set up, your option pool set up. This is all stuff we label as, hey, you need to do this pre-fundraising. This is basic foundational stuff for your company. And we want to give this to you as easy and as cheap as possible. You can get access to our tools through a subscription on Savvi. We also have add-on services. So if you have questions about, well, what if I want to be an LLC or a C Corp? Which of those is best? Why should I be a Delaware corporation if I'm going to be raising money? What if I'm already an LLC and need to convert it to a corporation? We have add-on services that we can give you quotes for to help provide those. If you actually want to hop on a call with an attorney and get that counsel and hand-holding or a white glove experience, we can provide those services as well.
Yeah.
We'll share how you can schedule with our team to talk about the pricing of that and what that looks like. Just a heads up, as a We Transact company, if you sign up for a Savvi subscription, you also will get some credits towards some of these services, and we'll share what that looks like. And so that's a Savvi Go level.
Oh, that's exciting.
Savvi,
I didn't even know about that one, so I'm excited.
Yeah, there's some credits that you can take advantage of if you're a We Transact company. So Savvi Raise is a bundle of tools and services that is meant for somebody who's raising money.
Awesome.
So we have a number of self-serve tools that you can get access to on our platform if you're on a subscription. So safes and convertible notes, everything from board consents to approve those financings, the term sheets that you would need to generate to share with the investors, the signature collection process. Mm-hmm. We have some due diligence reports that you can actually fill out to share with investors so that you don't have to go through a law firm to answer all those questions. You can go through our diligence report process and share it with the investors directly to skip over all of those transaction fees that firms charge you to develop a diligence report. You'll have the ability to generate data rooms for your investors and share those data rooms with investors for ongoing reporting. One thing I'll mention is we have a library of templates, templates for employee onboarding, equity agreements, board and stockholder consents, all these things that you want to be able to do. We have a library of templates. We call them workflows, and you'll get access to that on our platform depending on what you're looking to do. If you have a very custom document, we may not have a template for it, but we could automate it for you. So there's some customization that we can do. Those roll-up vehicles, the SPVs that we talked about, we have workflows for you to be able to set those up as well and have investors invest through an SPV. And then on the service side, we have counsel, paralegals who can provide financing counsel and financing admin services. We are a fraction of the cost compared to your standard law firm. So we work with financing counsel partners who work under the Savvi model, meaning they're going to use the platform to streamline signature collection, data rooms. They're not going to be churning billable hours on your financing. If you engage with our partner law firms, you're going to get an efficient and effective financing experience. We have ongoing paralegal subscriptions as well for folks who, hey, I don't want to maintain my cap table, or I need somebody to help me maintain my cap table. That ongoing, what we call corporate compliance, you can have a paralegal that's at a subscription price to be able to do that sort of things. So we have a number of services to go with your financing along with the SaaS tools.
Yeah.
And we will share with We Transact kind of some demos that they can put out there so that you can go and see what the Savvi platform looks like and how to use it.
Yeah.
But that is what Savvi offers. We want to make that available to the We Transact companies. We are offering up to $1,200 in credit. Depending on your subscriptions that you get on, that credit may be lower. It could even be higher, and depending on what services you're looking to do. So this is actually, it says here you need to schedule a call by December 31st. This is actually an open offer for We Transact companies. So regardless of when you have your financing coming down the road, you can schedule with our onboarding team. So this QR code takes you to a calendar link if you want to just scan that. Otherwise, you'll be able to contact our onboarding team to talk about the pricing, the price points, the different services, what that looks like, and the We Transact site will be able to, you'll be able to access that contact information through the site. So that is, that's it for, you know, our high level overview of what you get as a We Transact company through the Savvi partnership. So hopefully that's been helpful.
Yes, my goodness, it's more than helpful. I mean, this is exciting because it, you know, one thing we loved from the first time we met with your team was you really understand startups and entrepreneurs, and that, you know, that's not always something every law firm has a specialty in, and that is something here, as your experience as a founder, you could really empathize. You've really understood all the kind of danger points, the red flag points, all the areas that could be improved, and what you've developed with Savvi and your team is fantastic, because it's like you're wearing both hats. You're able to say, hey, this would be a lot better for the founder. This is what's affordable at this stage. And, you know, understanding that, like, there's a lot that a founder, a resourceful founder, can do on their own. And having a SaaS that starts you on the right path hopefully helps you avoid those pitfalls, and then growing with you, and really being able to have a SaaS product, because not all founders, I think, get the legal advice they need at the moment they need it most. It's knowing it, but knowing the information before you need it. It's you know, but having these strategies so that you don't end up in a place where you gotta pay to get out of, so to speak. It was more costly than
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's exactly it. So hopefully we can, you know, get you guys what you need, and we'd love to talk to you, even just to explore what you're looking for, see if we can get you what you need. So thanks everybody for your time.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful having you on. We'll break it all up. We'll make sure everybody has everything. There's going to be a lot of resources coming along the way. As Dan and his team have updates, we'll be sure to post that as well. And thank you, Dan, so much for taking your time to really go through this and answer a lot of the questions that founders are probably needing to ask right now as they plan for their raise.
No problem. Thank you.
Have a good one. Thank you.